We are so glad you stepped up to volunteer. We hope that this experience is an excellent for both you and the families and players you get to work with. Just remember, to be an excellent soccer coach, you first need to have a growth mindset. You next need to be able to connect with players. You need to be able to communicate well to those players, those parents, and the families and the clubs. And then finally, you need to have meaningful soccer knowledge. But you can always grow that as well. We are hopeful that you will help build our Noblesville United Soccer Club culture. This includes mastery, rewarding effort, feeding forward, saying next time you'll do better, and not focusing on mistakes, but letting players develop. We hope you'll be able to build your trustingness with your players, check in with players to show empathy, voice and choice, give them options sometimes in practices, and reflect on what you could do better as you coach. We hope you fill the emotional tank of your players by being positive, catch them being good, help them praise and cheer on each other, and have 5 positive things to say for every 1 improvement point. And finally, we want you to help you honor the game by being mindful of how you respond and react to issues. How do you seek out teachable moments for their life that go outside of soccer? And finally, how you connect the soccer to the overall life and development of the player. If you can do these things, you will help continue to make Noblesville United a great place to not only coach. The rules for U10 soccer start to get a little bit more like you would traditionally play soccer throughout the rest of the player's career. So, for example, we'll have more players on the field, so 7v7. We will have a bigger ball, so a size 4 ball, and we will start to play halves instead of quarters with substitutions occurring that occur at the midfield line. We will have a halftime. It'll last 5 minutes. I would suggest the way you manage that is the first minute, let the kids talk to each other. What do you guys think about the first half of the game? And then you give yourself 3 minutes to kind of talk through what you saw, maybe less, because their attention spans are short. And then you get them lined up for the second half with positionally what they should be doing. There'll be no coach on the field. You will stay in your general coaching area because you will have a referee who will manage the game for you. There will be a goalkeeper. That goalkeeper can only play 1 half, so you can't have a full-time goalkeeper because we do not want you to specialize in your positions at this time. We still want players to experience the multiple positions on the field. I would not force anybody to be a goalkeeper, but I would encourage everyone to try it who wants to give it a whirl, right? Goalkeeper distribution, it's throwing, it's rolling, and it's passing the ball from the ground. No punting, no drop kicks. The defenders have to move out not to their own side of the field now, but what's something called a build out line. We'll talk about that more when I do the diagramming for you later in this video. Goal kicks can be taken anywhere inside the penalty box, and defenders need to move to the build out line. Again, we'll diagram that. There'll be throw-ins, 2 feet down, ball goes all the way over their head with 2 hands on it, and they throw it from behind their head over the top of their head. You can allow a rethrow. Referees will hopefully manage that well, but they're young, they may not, and that's okay, but try to work yourself through it. There'll be no headers. They will be direct kicks now. So if a foul occurs that results in a direct kick, the way that's usually signaled by the referee is they will point in the direction of where the ball needs to go, and they will not leave their hand up in the air. If you see a person's referee's hands up in the air, that's an indirect kick, meaning that there needs to be touched by 2 players before it can score as a goal. Common indirect kicks are things like just breaking a rule, like you are not going behind the bid out line and touching the ball when the goalkeeper has the ball. That would be an indirect kick. Direct kicks will be things like fouls, right? So that's the difference. There is a version of offsides that's based on cherry picking. Again, when I go to the diagram, I'll talk you through that more specifically. And you will have substitutions. They'll be unlimited. So you can substitute when there's a goal scored, when there's a throw and a goal kick, and an injury. You need to put those subs in the center of the field, and they need to wait until they are called onto the field by the referee. You don't just send them off onto the field anymore like you did when they were younger. No slide tackling, and as always, we want you to play every player to play half the game, and ideally close to half of each half. Occasionally it doesn't work because of numbers, but that's what we would like to have happen, and for players to experience multiple positions in a game. Play some offense, play some defense. Don't get set in one position. At this point, players should be wearing their shin guards. They should have those covered by their socks, and they should be wearing cleats, though you may have a player in tennis shoes still, and that is okay. We will have a referee. for you. That referee will manage that game. That referee may be very skilled. It may be the very first time they've ever refereed their entire life. Be patient with them. Be encouraging with them. If there's an issue, you can let us know. We will keep track of scores. We do not want any team to beat another team by 4 goals or more. If you find that your team is dominating, move players around. If you find that your team is still dominating, make it so your team can't take any shots outside, has to shoot outside the penalty area. They can't go into the penalty area box to try to score. So that way there's a distance in the shot, making it easier to save. And if that still doesn't work, then try to connect passes. Connect 7 passes or 5 passes in a row as a team before you can shoot. But we really want to keep these scores somewhat close to each other. And then just so you understand on the scoring and the tie breaking, we will have goals on the tiebreakers. Basically, if you win a game, you get 3 points. If you tie, you get 1. If you lose, you get 0. And then the tiebreakers will be, first off, those points, and then head-to-head competition, and then your number of wins and your ties and your losses. And then goals against. We want to focus on defense versus goal scoring. So the less goals you give up in a season, the better off you are. So hopefully that gives you a good rundown of those rule sets. Players at the U10 level are now ready to start playing as a team, and that should be one of your main goals, to help them understand that concept. What can they do to help their team play? But we want to have a player-centered approach towards that. So at times players will say things like, I don't want to play that position, and you need to work with that player to say, hey, I need you to play that position, and then the second half you're going to play this other position you would like, because we need them still to experience all kinds of positions in soccer. We don't want to specialize. The key thing here is that you just need to make sure that you give plenty of praise, help guide them towards finding the answers. So ask them questions. What you don't want to be is what's called a joystick coach, particularly during the game, where you're saying, dribble, 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 pass, shoot. Ask other questions. So one of the things I frequently will yell with my players is, are we being creative? And what that is the cue to tell them, are we doing the same thing over and over again? And is it time to try something else on the soccer field, without me yelling at them, quit dribbling the ball up the right side of the field and losing it when you try to take that player on one-on-one. I simply have trained my players to say, are we being creative right now? And then that hopefully helps them. Do we have our head up? Is there an option open? Instead of me telling them where to pass it, I'm giving them questions to answer. So that's the first thing you want to do when it comes to this. So we're looking to help these players with the following player actions at 7v7. We're looking to help them learn to shoot, pass, dribble forward, spread out, create passing options, move into a space to receive a pass, support the attack by moving up the field. And these are all the same things you'll see at the 4v4 level and 5v5 level of soccer we're already playing. The next thing we're going to do is help to create 2-on-1s and 1v1s. 2 players take on 1 player on the attack, or individual players take on a single player. And then we're going to do change the point of the attack or switch the field. So I'll cover those in a diagram, both of those in a second. And then these first few here, protect the goal, steal the ball, make it compact, keep it compact, are also covered here. But we're also needing to work on pressure, cover, balance, and then outnumbering the opponents so they cannot get into your own goal. So I'm going to jump over to the diagram. We're going to talk through those items. The first thing we would talk about on the attack is creating opportunities for the create passing options. So what we're looking at here is that 9 has possession of the ball and heading towards this goal, and the 7 is playing defense on the 9. These players need to look to create passing options by potentially running straight up the field to provide an angle of a pass, or they could come into a space where they come back here and they communicate, I'm open, for this player to make that pass either into the space on the side or potentially to pass back, allowing this player to create a 2-on-1 as this player wants to put pressure on the ball, and this player to pass the ball here and create opportunities to beat. So that's the first. So this is both supporting the attack by creating opportunities to be in a passing lane or creating that passing option, and by making a 2-on-1. Additionally, of course, we want to work on those one-on-one skills from time to time. And one-on-one skills are simply the ability to utilize your dribble to beat a player. Uh, how does that look? What that might look like? Maybe a skill move that you teach inside of a practice. Lots of resources on skill moves available on YouTube, and also we have a whole list of those on our resource page that you can work on. The other concept we want to talk about is just changing the point of attack. So in this case, it may be that we want to switch the field. So think about the field being split in half, and the player just simply passes it over for this player to run onto to switch the field away from the pressure. Because in this situation, it could be that the pressure on the defensive side could be something like this. And by switching the field, we may get away from some of this pressure that is existing right here on this ball. So that's the idea of change the point of attack. Now looking at the defensive situation. So in defensive situations, we're looking to do what's called pressure cover balance. So this means that red 7 here, the right wing, has the ball, and our striker is going to come put pressure on the ball. Notice positionally that the number 9 is trying to push this player towards the sideline and away from the central channel towards their own goal. This allows this player to step into what's called a cover position, because we're moving them towards a position where they could potentially be double teamed, which gets the idea of outnumbering the opponent. This means that this player would also step into a cover position because they want to make sure that they cover for the number 9 in case they get beat one-on-one. This player could step into the pressure position and cover potential passes. Now, this number 11 is over here in a switched field position, but they are not quite as threatening because the ball's on this side of the field. So the 7 might drop back here into what's called a balanced position, meaning that if the pressure person gets beat, this player can step into pressure and this person can move to cover. But they're balancing the field and the opportunity. And then situationally, if this ball gets switched all the way across, this player can now move from balance all the way to pressure. The 6 goes into a cover, and this player may need maybe have to drop all the way back down into a balanced position to provide help, so that additional players can be involved in the play. So that is the pressure cover balance and the concept of outnumbering an opponent. Field locations for our U10 division is in the back western corner of our facility, southwest corner. Unfortunately, it's the one furthest away from everything, but it is what it is. Something has to be far away. There are 4 fields back here, fields 5, 6, 7, and 8. When you park, obviously, depending on games, there may be games happening here, maybe happening here, but you can park in this zone here. But there's also a grass lot here that if the weather's been okay, you can park in the grass lot and then you can walk through and come back here and have your practices. Your practices will have 2 time slots, either 5 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. We recommend somewhere between an hour and 15 minutes for U10. And you might take your last couple of minutes of your practice just to do something fun. When I had girls at U10, we did water balloon tossing back and forth, and we pick up all our trash at the end of it. Just silly things to make them have fun, because they still want to have fun on both sides of that, along with playing soccer. But that way, if you want to use an hour and a half, you can, but you may not push them all out. We sometimes would have the parents come out, play with them for the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes, right? Something fun, because they're old enough that they enjoy that, but they may not be able to go for a focused practice for an entire 90 minutes. If you would like to start your practice like 5:15 until 6:30, that's absolutely fine. You can do that. Or if you like to start, at 6:45 to 8, you can do that, or 6 o'clock to 7:45. That is fine as well. You will potentially share your field with another team. If that happens, you get half a field. There is lots of green space out by those fields. You can kind of see it in this graphic here. So don't be afraid to use that green space as well in your practice time. The positions your players play at the beginning of the game is called your formation. When we get to U10, we're playing 7v7, so there is more formational choices that do make sense. In soccer, I'm showing you one on the screen right now, which is a 2-3-1, 2 backs, three midfielders and a forward, but other ones can work as well. What's important in soccer is that you create lots of triangles and diamonds on the field so players can pass. And so a formation with that was what you really want. What you don't want to do is create something like this, which is all squares. This is not what you want, and so I recommend no one play a 2-2-2. We want to create width on the field and teach our players to use width as a team so they can pass the ball and connect their passes. And in this case, what we have is we have our goalkeeper, we have two center backs, so the fours and the fives. We have a defensive midfielder, or a midfielder who has more defensive responsibility. And then we have our left and right wings, and we have our striker up top. Now, as the ball moves up the field, if the ball's up here, our shape will change. So it could be that our striker comes way over here, and then our forwards out here applying support, providing switch of field, our defensive mids here, and our left and right center backs are coming up the field and maybe even shifting over a little bit to provide that support on the field. That's our shape. When the ball's all the way in the box, let's say it's coming down here, we're looking to have something like this set up so that we have multiple ways for this person to pass in, close to goal, back to goal, have a backwards pass available, and we have our supporting center backs ready to play. So that'd be our shape on the attack. Defensively, what it might look like as the players come down the field and we have to play defense is that it may turn into something like this on the backside, with these players stepping up, your wing players stepping up to provide the pressure that's needed on the ball, and then your number 9 or your forward providing outlet opportunities. So this is your shape. Let's go over through a few of the unique rules to U10 and how we restart and start play. You will now see I've added a few extra lines to the field. These are called the build-out lines. These build-out lines are utilized to do a couple of different things. In U6, U7, and U8, players moved to half field when the goalkeeper had the ball and when there was a goal kick. This is the same principle, but now the players are a little bit closer up the field, so they have to move to the build-out line. But the build-out line also serves as an opportunity to create and start to teach offsides. So let's put some players on red to play defense, and we'll show you kind of how that looks. So we'll put our 4 here, and our 5, and I have those reversed. So I'm going to reverse those real quick. Smaller numbers go to the right, bigger numbers go to the left. And so we have our 7, our wingers are out here, and then we have our defensive midfielder here, and we are going to have our forward. So let's pretend that Blues got the ball, and Blues won the possession, and all of red was pushed up the field here, and I mean to make that an 11. Thank you. Oh, there we go. There's an 11. Let's say that red did an awesome job of getting their players up the field. Really well. In regular soccer rules, if this blue player was behind the last two defenders, the goalkeeper and second last defender, and they received a pass in this situation past half field, that would be considered offside. But in U10, we basically treat the build-out line as the offside line. So this would not be offsides in U10 soccer. This player is allowed to roam freely, even behind all the defenders, up until the build-out line. Additionally, if this player was slightly offsides here, but not standing there and that ball was passed all the way from here to here, this player, even though they were slightly offsides, we would not call them offsides because they're not really cheesing the system. They're just slightly offsides. And we're trying to help them, help these players learn to play defense properly. Now, what we would call is if these two players were way up here, this player was outside the build-out line, and this player was passed all the way up here, that is considered cherry picking and it would be an indirect kick for red going the opposite direction. Your referee will have discretion on when they call and how they call this cherry picking rule, but understand there is a cherry picking rule, but not a true offsides rule. So if your player's a little bit offsides, it's okay. Now let's talk about different restarts and starts of the play. When the ball is kicked off, players have to be on the defensive side on their own half, and they have to be outside the circle. Now there is a rule in soccer that you have to be on your own side of the field when you kick off, but practically, it doesn't really apply. Frequently, you'll see players put a foot over into the other team's half to then basically pass the ball backwards. And that's what I suggest every single team do. I would pass back, in this case, to the six, offensive mid, and allow these players to get out wide. So these players immediately have to decide what they're going to do defensively and get together and spread the field. But that is how the kickoff takes place. Once the ball is kicked backwards, these players may enter the other half, and they can obviously, of course, run through the circle. When a throw-in occurs, a player must keep 2 feet on the ground. They must put the ball behind their head, and they must throw the ball over their head to a teammate. I suggest making diamond shapes off of the throw-in. And if the throw-in's in your own half, your defensive half where you're defending, I would have your wings, like your 11 or your 7, throw the ball over, and then utilize your defensive mid or your 6 as a backwards option, your 9 down the line, and your 7 coming over as an option. So the ball could theoretically be played here and then right back, and this player is not defended, or vice versa. You'll frequently see a playback. That is your best option on the throw-in. Now, however, when we get up the field in the attacking half, and let's say we're up here, you may want to have one of your backs come up and be the thrower on this half of the field. So you have an extra player in the attack, and then your defender can come back into their space here and pick up the space. That's up to you, but that's how I would do it, the throw-ins. On corner kicks, I would have your outside wings kick the ball in and make sure you get 2 people in the box at different levels, meaning this is a level sideways, this is a level backwards, with your defensive mid ready to receive, and then your 2 backs ready to push up and opportunities present themselves to score. And then obviously defensively mark up players so that you're ready to play that way. Goal kicks are a bit different. So technically at U10 you can put the ball all the way to the edge of your penalty box area. But when you do this, you basically put players closer to the build out line with less time to build up. I would suggest bringing the ball back to the top of your smaller goalkeeper box. Bringing back your left and right center back as options to play the ball left or right, leaving a player centrally to play against the 9. And then once this ball is passed to one of the teammates, using the width to try to get up the field, with players then connecting. Oh, shouldn't go that way. So if the ball comes this way, we would go this way, with this 9 coming up the field trying to connect and players building. What I would like us not to do is to load up a ton of players right on the build out line and then all sprint in at the exact same time to put pressure on this person and get an easy goal. I would rather see us only allow the 9 to put pressure on that first pass once it's made, and then these other players play defense and wait for that pass to come, and then play defense from here so we can work on the concepts of correct team play. Because this be true, I want the players to develop. I don't necessarily want you to score easy goals. And so by playing smart soccer and working yourself through this space, we'll be in a much better space to play that team soccer we're looking for. The final thing I want to mention is the same thing applies for if the goalkeeper has the ball. So if the goalkeeper has the ball, the red team needs to back up their positions the same way. So now the goalkeeper is carrying the ball, but the goalkeeper can only throw or roll the ball. So I'd love to see us get ourselves basically in the exact same positional thing that you just saw with the goal kick, but we roll the ball to our teammate and we build out. And again, only the 9 comes to put pressures, while the 7 and 11 look to put pressure on the outside of that space, and we can build out of that space. There are tons of resources to help you plan a practice or a training for your team. Noblesville United has purchased the Team Snap Mojo content, which comes from US Youth Soccer. And when you log into your Team Snap app, you will find that based on the level of play you have, there are curriculum already built in that you can simply open up, look at, and apply. There's tons, I think there's 12 different curriculums in there, so you have plenty to go through the entire season. The next thing is we have our YouTube channel where I have things posted that you can watch and look at, and I will post different ideas for you at different times, and I will send out emails to you with those resources. We also have a whole collection of Noblesville United Soccer Coaching resources at our website. These include guidebooks with suggested activities for different levels, individual skills, and other information. I will link to this resource in the video below. Indiana Soccer also has a whole collection of resources, so depending on which level of play you are, you can open those up and you'll be given a whole lot of different weeks and volumes, so for over 2 seasons of PDFs with different activities to run and understand. I also recommend one more. Soccer Drive provides resources as well for practice planning. I have a paid account, so mine might look a little different than yours, but for different divisions, you will find different practice plans that you can view and open up to work on different ideas and concepts. There's a bazillion more on the internet. Your only thing you really need to do is make sure you're organized and spend a little time before practice. Is that 30 minutes a weekend, just getting ready to figure out what it is that you want to do in practice this week? But it's not, you should always have things ready to go and resources at your fingertips to be successful. On game day, you should be there probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes early, and you can do a warm up. And I have a video on warming up that you can watch if you want to get some warm up ideas. But the way the setup will be is that you'll have parents coming around the sides. They need to be back off the field a few feet, but you will have a referee on the field. And I don't have a referee icon. Let's use this X. There's your X. There's your referee. Kind of hard to see it. But they will need to be backed away so people can throw the ball in, and we really don't want parents standing right next to the goal, right? Occasionally I walk by and there's a parent like right there, and that can't happen. We got to have these parents back away because there is space behind there. So if someone stay back, they can get pretty far off the field. It's possible that if something happens at the field and parents get too rowdy, that a referee may come to you, coach, and say, please, will you talk to your parents before I throw them out? Doesn't happen often. I've had it happen one time in my entire time of coaching where a referee had me go deal with parents and ultimately threw the parents out anyway. And that's how it happens sometimes, and right, because sometimes you just can't get people to calm down. And that's what it is. Now, your bench players will be sitting on their benches here, should be down by the build out line with the coaches working the front line. And again, you need to leave space there for the referees to stand there if they need to, or for throw-ins to occur. When it's time to sub players, they need to report to the middle, and they need to wait till the referee calls them onto the field. They shouldn't just be running out to the field and coming on, just as a good reminder on that. Additionally, at the end of the games, obviously line your teams up, give high fives, and do all those other things that are well. Hopefully, no real issues with this. You can check with the referee, confirm the score of the game. Referees will report those scores to the club. The club will put those scores into the system. So you don't need to handle that process. Sometimes it's still fun to do tunnels and things, but that's not required. It just depends on what you want to do. And sometimes snacks are still fun for the kids as well. But that should be kind of how game day flows for you and kind of the setup of where things are. Just remember to help players spread out every single time the ball goes out of bounds, or we have a restart and play on a goal kick or a kickoff. And at the end of the game, make sure that you line your players up, have them give a high five, and if you want to pull the parents in and do a tunnel, have the kids run through it or something of that nature, please do so. You are doing your awesome job at coaching at this level of soccer when the kids are having fun and they're smiling and they want to come back the next practice and the next game. Thank you for volunteering.